I'm Fred Brunig, as many of you know, a member of the worship committee. Lisa is away this week, and we are delighted to have another member of the worship committee, Sarah Rankin, lead our worship today. So, see her in a few minutes. There are, any visitors who would like to be identified or identify themselves other than the ones I'm about to identify? Great longtime friends Jim and Marnie Morrison from Charlottesville, Virginia are here visiting. They actually came up to visit Joan Scheimer, who we were hoping would be in church today, but is not going to be here today. But they stayed with us last night. We're delighted they wanted to come to church and see all of our friends. There any other introductions or people to say hi to? I think Tom has an announcement.
After church today, I and Jim Haynes will actually be giving out again donation envelopes if you use those. Just to clarify for everybody, you do not have to use a donation envelope. It's really for people who give us loose cash so that we can identify it properly. You're welcome to have an envelope if that's what you prefer. We have some spares, so don't hesitate to ask. The other thing that'll be given out are donation statements. Yes, we do make errors sometimes in our bookkeeping. If you find one, don't hesitate to contact us. The best way would be to either email me or Patty with what the situation is, because then we'll have time to look at it on the computer before we get back to you. So look for those downstairs after the service. Thanks.
Tom is our treasurer, and working great lengths to keep things in perfect. So I have actually wanted to make sure that everyone knows there is a coffee hour, fellowship time after service today, and I was informed that there's lots to eat. So please make a point to come downstairs briefly and join in fellowship. The other announcement that I wanted to make was make sure everyone has on their distant, not so distant in my view, calendar is that the Sugar on Snow Supper is Saturday, March 16th. So put that on your calendars. And we're going to be making the donuts. Nancy Miller was our wonderful donut maker for many years. And now that she's not with us, we have to carry on without her. And anyone who has done it before and would like to help again, please let me know. If you've never done it before, we'd love to teach you how to do that. So I'll be downstairs after the service and you can speak to me about that. The dates haven't been set. I wanted to make sure we had a good crew and see what dates would work for the people that want to do it. Let's see, there are other announcements in the bulletin, so please make sure to look at those. We will need, oftentimes Lisa will say that you can pull out the color thing and just use the white, but you'll want to keep the color thing for another couple of minutes because it has our first hymn on it. So, birthdays is the next order of business. Any birthdays to celebrate this week? Lucy, and then I saw, Lucy.
Al Franklin.
Did you want to announce your own birthday, Al?
I wanted to announce my great-great-granddaughter is 1 year old come Tuesday.
Wow, okay. So Al and his great-great-granddaughter are having birthdays this week. All right. And Jim, is that over there? It's hard to see.
It's my twin brother Atticus' birthday on Wednesday.
It's whose?
Atticus' birthday on Wednesday.
Atticus's birthday on Monday. Well, that's Wednesday. So that means somebody else's birthday is probably on Wednesday as well. Okay, so that's 3 people in the congregation that we're singing for already. Elizabeth.
And the third person on Wednesday is my younger grandson, Jonah. He will be 5-year-old on Wednesday. And then on Saturday, yes, it is Saturday. Moses Jensen will be 25 years old.
Moses Jensen, 25 on Saturday. Wow.
California.
Okay.
we had a birthday in our household. Maggie turned 28 on Thursday.
Maggie Sweeney turned 28 last Thursday. Okay, you want to say it right over here?
Yeah, Marcia Zutaudis and Annie Paradis' daughter turned 3 2 days ago. Josie, yeah.
All right. Okay, Stephen, and then
My granddaughter Ella B turned 9 yesterday.
9 yesterday, Ella B. Okay,
Ella B.
and Josh,
I turned 29 on the 4th this month,
on the 4th of
on the 4th of this month in January.
in January, right? We sang for you a couple of weeks ago, as I recall. Right. So we'll sing for you again, Josh. Okay, and let's see, 2 more. Lisa,
Ellie Mayonen, I think you all know her birthday on the 21st.
Ellie Mayanen was on the 21st, right? And Judy, whoop, still popping up.
The church got canceled last week, but my mom's was Friday, and she's 92. She's still driving and on the go every day.
Oh, boy. Judy's mom on 92. And Mary Lila.
My grandson died, birthday was 2 weeks ago when he turned 21, and up the head, it goes.
Okay, your grandson. All right. Oh, and still more.
No, because we had no troops last week. Phoebe, my daughter, had her birthday on the 19th, and her husband Jesse had his birthday on the 18th.
19th and the 18th, Phoebe and Jesse. Okay. All right. Whoop, Lucy, one more.
Jan Drexler's birthday was last week, and also one weekend.
Our clerk, Jan Drexler's birthday was last week. Wow. So lots of birthdays to sing. Peter, you going to give us some?
Happy birthday, we love you. Happy birthday, and may all your dreams come true. When you blow out the candles, one light stays aglow. It's the love light in your eyes wherever you go.
We give you Sarah Rankin.
So we'd like to take a moment, silent meditation, while our friends light the candles. The candles are the symbols of God's love and light in our lives, today and always. Thank you, Evan and Catherine. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today I'd like to reaffirm the UCC's proclamation that God is still speaking. And I invite you to do the same as we worship together. Poet Mary Oliver, who just died earlier this month, wrote, "It is a serious thing just to be alive on this fresh morning in this broken world." You have an insert with the opening hymn, Many Gifts, One Spirit.
You
In your bulletin, you'll find the responsive reading. I'll read the plain text. If you will read the bold, please. Oh God, we ask that you teach us stillness.
As the grasses are still with light,
Teach us suffering.
as old stones suffer within,
Teach us humility.
as blossoms are humble with the beginning,
Teach us caring.
as the mother who secures her young,
Teach us courage.
as the tree that stands alone,
Teach us limitation.
as the ant which crawls on the ground,
Teach us freedom.
as the eagle which soars in the sky,
Teach us resignation.
as the leaves which die in the fall,
Teach us regeneration.
as the seed which rises in the spring,
Teach us to forget ourselves.
as melted snow forgets its life,
And teach us to remember kindness.
as dry fields weep in the rain.
Let us take a moment to silently reflect on the ways in which we feel we have fallen short this week. Our assurance of pardon today is a paraphrase of Psalm 32. When I ignored my sin, I was miserable and weak day and night. Then I finally admitted my sins and confessed them to you, Lord, and you forgave all my guilt. So everyone who wants to do what is right should pray to you as soon as they realize their sin. This will save them a lot of turmoil. Lord, I am safe with you. You give me reason to sing. Speaking of which, may the choir please come forward. was gorgeous, you guys. Will the children please come forward? Has to have the power on as well as the on button. Okay, where is everyone? I have a lot of work for you guys to do. Whoa, there's more kids. Well, should we wait? So while Ellen's running downstairs to get more children mysteriously out of, I don't know, the closet we keep them in, I want to tell you about Shirley Harris Crockett, who was the pastor here for many years before any of you were born, but you all know Larry Crockett. He was her husband. And she used to bring bags, is that right? Yes. Paper bags. This one is paper, but it's got some bling. And it's the wrong season, but it's still winter. And she would bring things out of that bag for the kids to look at and talk about. And now we'll see. Oh boy. Oh boy. We do have a closet where we keep kids downstairs. Holy moly. Wow, thanks for coming up, everybody, because we have work to do and I need helpers. Where would you like to sit? You want to sit here next to Jen? Okay, excellent choice. I like to sit next to her too. So in this bag I have some pieces of paper, and each piece of paper has a picture on it. And what we're going to do is, first, I want you all to each draw a picture, take turns drawing a picture out, and then see if the other kids can identify who is in the picture. And if you can, let's talk about that person. And if you can't, then your job is to find a grown-up who can tell you who's in the picture and something about them. So,
Can we draw a picture?
you're gonna no, you're not gonna draw a picture. You're gonna draw a picture. Context is everything. Would you like to go first? Want to take a picture out? Get you in here and grab one. Do you know who that is, or can you see if everybody else knows who that is? You seen that man before? No? Okay. Oh, I see some hands over here. Do you think Junie or Finn might like to help you? Why don't you show them and see what they say?
Let's see the picture.
Okay, honey. I was gonna have you walk. That's okay. Okay. Can you stand up here actually and hold the picture up for us? Would you mind doing that? Oh yeah. I want everybody to see who this is. We just celebrated something. Okay, Junie, I want you to tell us.
Dr. Martin Luther King. Junior.
Right. Gotta get that one in. His dad insisted. So what do you know about him? Why is he important?
He had a lot of speeches, and his two famous ones, I think, were I've been to the mountaintop and I have a dream.
Finn wants to say something else too. Thank you. That's wonderful.
He was a civil rights activist.
He was a civil. What does that mean?
He was fighting for equality.
Anybody else want to say anything about Dr. King?
He was fighting for equality between the races because segregation was really bad back then. I mean, it's still pretty bad, but
We're still working on this. Okay, yeah. Yes, that's excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, you want to draw the next one? Okay.
he was also a preacher.
Yes. He wasn't just an activist, he was also a preacher.
Not a
You got it? Yeah, that's just one. We got it. All right, hold that one up and see the kids. See who knows who that is. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Cody, did you want to say something? No? Okay. Same folks. All right, that's cool. Finn?
Isn't he Pope Francis II? Something?
Pope Francis the first. We've only had one Pope Francis.
it's a
Okay, you want to hold him up so everybody can see his face? Lila, what do you know about him?
He's the Pope. Yes.
Still true. This just in. So what's that joke? Is the Pope in the woods? I don't know. So one of the things I'm talking about today is, actually the main thing I'm talking about today is how God is still speaking. I think we know how Dr. King spoke and that what we can hear in his messages that God might want us to hear. Do we know anything about what the Pope is up to and why this particular Pope and why we might think that God is speaking through him?
Never mind.
Never mind? Any grown-ups want to help us with that? Oh, Junie.
I just have a question. How many popes were there?
More than 2. It's a safe way to be right.
I think he's like, I don't know, like progressive and like for human rights and stuff, and I think he's more open and affirming than the past Pope folks.
Yeah, it's subtle. We got a ways to go, but yes, I think he is trying to shine a light on some of the ways in which the Catholic Church has excluded people, and he's trying to change that a little bit. Yes, Jim?
Did he wash a woman's feet?
He did. He was the first pope ever to wash a woman's feet. That's one of the ways that he allowed God to speak through him. Finn wants to pick the next one. Alrighty. I guarantee you will need some grown-up help with some of these, but I love that you guys are getting this.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Well, can you show the other kids?
I have no idea either. Jen? Anybody?
Stand up.
Yeah, stand up so everyone can see. Oh, Mary Alice. Here, take this over to Mary Alice.
Emma Shodron, a Buddhist. Emma Shodron, Chodron.
How is God still speaking through her?
She teaches people to be quiet and still and find the beauty inside. So she's a Buddhist teacher and has wonderful teachings.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Whoop, oh, goodness. You want to pick one?
Can I pick the next one?
Wait, honey, just pick one. Don't rifle through them. Just take one. Oh, I hold that one up. Show the kids, because somebody's going to know this one right here. No, I know you know.
Please, I haven't got to say anything.
You're going to have a turn, I swear. Oh, okay, Cody, I see you over here. You got to see the picture. What do you think?
Wangari Matali.
Sure is. And what do you know about her? How has God spoken to us through her? I'm putting you on the spot. What do we have right outside this church? Does anybody know what we have from her right outside this church, Lila?
Well, I think Cody knows.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
A tree that she planted outside.
And why is it important that we have a tree that she planted outside? Jen really wants to talk. Okay, go.
Because planting trees helps save the environment.
And did you all know? Excuse me, Atticus. I'm sorry. I'm just tripping over everybody today. Did you know that she planted and encouraged other people to plant tens of thousands of trees?
Yeah.
Her dream is to create a green belt across an arid part of her continent in order to bring the water cycle back to the people. She's caring for the earth. We can hear.
There's a mosaic over here.
And yes, that's right. In the back of the church, we have a mosaic that is honoring that for all to see. Okay, who is? Let's see. Nevaeh, will you pick one? The adult sermon's going to be short because the kids' one is long. Just don't worry. Ooh, who's that?
Want to stand up, Nevaeh, so we can see?
I recognize the face,
Oh.
but I don't know.
Lila recognizes her?
But I don't know the name. I just recognize the
Oh, wait, honey, make sure everybody can see because we need somebody to tell us who it is.
Yeah. Give everybody a spin.
Oh, okay. We have a customer. Connie, hold it up so that everybody can see well.
And hold it like
It's my long distance pastor, Nadia Bowles-Weber.
Nadia Bowles-Weber, tell us about her.
She's a Lutheran pastor, and she started a church called House for All Sinners and Saints, and she's actually since left that for a more national platform, but she is the embodiment of radical welcome.
Yes, her church was for addicts and poverty-stricken folks and the LGBTQ community that had been marginalized in the Denver area, and she built a really thriving and love-filled community that she then handed off to, I believe, a lesbian minister, somebody from that community anyway, to give them a better platform. All right. Did you pick one yet? No. Okay. Nevaeh?
You don't know? Malala? You don't know? I'm sorry. Malala?
Malala, yes. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
God. How did I not know that?
Well, you do. You do know. Well, hold it up. Hold it up so we can see. Oop.
Stand up.
Yep. Okay, Jane wants to talk about Malala too.
The person in the picture is Malala Yousafzai. She spoke out for girls' rights to go to school in her village in Pakistan, and the Taliban shot her, but miraculously she survived and has since gone on to start a foundation, I believe, to help girls go to school.
And she's won the Nobel Peace Prize for it. Yes.
Youngest person ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize, and I believe she's at Oxford now.
That's right. True. Yes, Finn, what would you like to say about her?
Can you win a Nobel? Oh God, this is a question. Can you win a Nobel Prize for anything else?
Then peace? Oh yeah, you can earn one for chemistry or medicine or whatever. Atticus, will you pick a picture out? Can you take out a picture? Just one, sweetheart. Just pick one picture. Here, I don't care which one, but just take one, okay? You got it? Is that one? Okay, can you hold that one up so we can see it? You stand up? Please? Thanks, buddy. Okay, can you show everybody the picture? Other side, the part where her face is.
I feel like that.
Oh, Peter says, oh. Do you know who that is, Peter? It is Mary Oliver. All right, now you're in the hot seat. You got to tell us. Atticus, hold the picture up so everyone can see it.
Mary Oliver is a poet who speaks to many of us in this room, and she writes poems that are deep and spiritual and also accessible.
And she died week before last, so that's quite a loss. Okay, would you like to pick a picture out?
Yes, I would.
Oh, I'm talking to Cody.
Yeah.
I don't expect any of you to know who this is, but maybe someone in the church does. She's an officer in the United Church of Christ. You know, Jen knows who it is. Woo! Star student, man.
More like pastor's wife. So that's Reverend Tracy Blackman, and she is in charge of the Ministry for Justice at the UCC and on the national offices, and she's an activist in her own right. She's a very powerful speaker.
Yeah, she has her own Church of Christ the King. It's a UCC church in Florissant, Missouri. She's been very active in the response to what happened in Ferguson, Black Lives Matter movement. She was in Charlottesville the night everything went down. She's a powerhouse, yeah. And she's part of us.
Shorty, could you stand up and show it to us?
Can I pick another one?
Has everybody had a chance to pick one yet? Has everybody picked one?
Ben
Oh.
hasn't.
What?
Ben
I've
hasn't.
only picked one.
Oh, he's picked one. Okay, you can pick another one.
Yeah. I want one.
Okay.
So I got one.
Just take one. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know
There's a clue in that picture. Peter's laughing. Hold it up so everybody can see. What's the clue in the picture?
Is it Bill McKibben?
Ah, I know Mary Alice has to know who this is.
Bill McKibben? Is it? No.
No, it's Wendell Berry. That's right. The guy who wrote the lyrics to the song the choir just sang. Do you want to tell us about Wendell Berry? Oh, you want to pick another picture. So Wendell Berry is an activist, a poet, a writer. We sometimes read his writings here in church. He's very much interested in creating small community and focusing people on the communities that they live in and returning to practices that are responsible for the environment and the earth. And he's a farmer, that's right. And yes, that's a good thing. All right, so Junie, I think we have a couple more. You want to take one? We're almost done. You guys have done a great job. I really want you to hold it up though so folks can see, okay? Who knows who this is?
Junie, I can't see.
Oh, okay, all righty.
That's Thich Nhat Hanh. He is a Buddhist monk who established a worldwide movement to invite deeper understanding of mindfulness, and he is currently back in Vietnam, where although he was exiled for decades, but the Vietnamese government has just welcomed him back in order to return to the temple that he began in at age 14 in order to die there.
It's saved tens of thousands of Vietnamese orphans. Has saved over 10,000 Vietnamese orphans.
Yeah, he's 92 years old, and who has Dr. King's picture? Who's got that?
This one.
Okay, right here, Dr. King. So he and Dr. King had a meeting in the 60s, and he's really kind of how Dr. King began to speak out more powerfully against the war. And then King nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize, but made it public, and therefore kind of the Nobel Committee didn't like that. He wasn't supposed to tell anyone who he nominated, so he didn't win the award. But they didn't give the award to anyone that year, which I take as kind of a nod to, well, we would have if you hadn't told everybody. Sometimes, people can be a little cranky. All right, two more, I think. Would you like to pull one out? Oh, I love this guy.
I don't know.
Oh, Jen knows who it is. Okay, all right. I love it when kids know this stuff.
Reverend Barber? That's all I know.
You just know
from what you've told me.
Okay, all right. That is Reverend Barber. Jen, you want to tell us about Reverend Barber?
He has restarted the Poor People's Campaign, which was the work that Dr. King was doing when he was murdered 51 years ago, or almost. And so he is building a coalition of poor folks and folks from all different walks of life across the country to consolidate power and challenge the current structures of inequality.
And he brought the Poor People's Campaign to Vermont, about 6 months ago? He's been traveling from state to state, organizing this nationally. He also started it's in Charlottesville, in the Moral Mondays, which was a gathering on the courthouse steps where they talked about poverty and racism. All right, last one. I know one of the kids is going to know this. We do not need the grown-ups to help us with this one.
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers.
It's a
Beautiful day in the neighborhood,
a beautiful day for a neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day, this beauty world, a neighborly day for beauty. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's take the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor?
I did not plan that to be the last one. Great job, guys. Okay. Prayer, please. Okay. Everybody, let's say a quick prayer, then you can go downstairs. Let us just thank God for one moment here. Pause and thank God for all of these wonderful voices that are still speaking to us. Amen.
Sarah, can I make a quick little reference?
Oh, and Ellen wants to make an announcement. Yes.
Usually the kids go down both sides of the aisle, but I'm inviting you to go down that aisle and look at that mosaic. For one thing, because it's about Wangari Maathai, and the other thing is we're going to be making a mosaic downstairs today. So that would be a good segue.
Awesome.
Thank you.
First reading this morning is from Howling Sun by Nancy Wood. My help is in the mountain, where I take myself to heal the earthy wounds that people give to me. I find a rock with sun on it, and a stream where the water runs gentle, and the trees which one by one give me company. So must I stay for a long time, until I have grown from the rock, and the stream is running through me, and I cannot tell myself from one tall tree. Then I know that nothing touches me, nor makes me run away. My help is in the mountain that I take away with me. The second reading this morning is Psalm 23. I read from the King James Bible, but almost all the contemporary Bibles keep very close to this language. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And the third reading this morning is The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water. I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Here endeth the third lesson. May we take note.
Thank you, Tom. Not to put too fine a point on it, but those were all really the same 3 poems. But some contemporary peeks at what might be said in the 23rd Psalm as well. Oh, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O God, who is our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. So this is more a collection of observations than a sermon. I hope you will understand why and make your own such observations moving forward. When I heard a week ago last Thursday that Mary Oliver had died, whom we so often quote in this church, I began reflecting on what we in the United Church of Christ might mean when we say God is still speaking. All of these folks that the kids were looking at and that we were collectively thinking and talking about, I think are examples of God still speaking, and they all lived in my lifetime. That was the egocentric measure that I used to pick people. Right, that's what I'm going to talk about, and it may be a little disjointed, but... So this notion of God is still speaking, it's clearly tied to our social justice ministry in the broadest sense. The goals of extravagant welcome to all, economic justice for the poor, social justice for the LGBTQ community, the Black community, the many groups that we lump together under the monikers Native American, Hispanic, and Asian American, the incarcerated and the formerly incarcerated, the differently abled, and the immigrant, the mentally ill and the addicted, and those trapped in war-torn areas, and whoever is in need of social justice. On our website, we affirm, today, under one collective identity, we can enthusiastically lift up that the UCC is a welcoming, justice-minded Christian community. At a time when religion is too often portrayed as narrow-minded and exclusive, many are raising their voices for an alternate vision. So the website goes on to enumerate those things, where God is all-loving and inclusive, where the Church of Jesus Christ welcomes and accepts everyone as they are, where your mind is nourished as much as your soul, where Jesus the healer meets Jesus the revolutionary, and where together we grow a just and peaceful world. Doing justice, seeking peace, and building community are central to the identity of the United Church of Christ. So that's from our website. I'm embarrassed to say I never even looked before to see exactly what we meant by God is still speaking. I just looked and said, well, that sounds cool. But God is still speaking also invokes the idea that wisdom and lights along the path to God didn't stop with the writing and then the adoption of our own sacred texts. I mean, it's always implied that to me, in addition to the social justice piece. We have the Quran. We have Rumi. We have so many gifts of God's voice coming to us over the centuries. I deliberately chose nearly all of the readings, prayers, and hymns today from sources that have lived during my lifetime. And so, part of the path to embodying God's kingdom is learning to listen. To listen for the voice of God in the voices of all people, as well as in the natural world, as Mary Oliver did so well. God could be speaking from anywhere. Attention, Oliver wrote, is the beginning of devotion. As I began thinking over her life and work, which we so often hear quoted from this pulpit, I found myself also thinking of Shirley Harris Crockett, who served this church long and well, invoking the feminine in the divine in ways that opened our eyes. I believe her work here laid the ground for our current pastor, Lisa Sparrow, to lead this congregation in becoming open and affirming to our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. Through them both, God spoke. And of course, last week I was thinking of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who preached racial justice and economic justice and peace. And really, aren't they all dependent on one another? Through him, God spoke to so many of us, and we are still, as a nation, trying to listen. The Reverend Tracy Blackman is the UCC's Executive Minister of Justice and local church ministries. The UCC has paired those together. She too tells us that these are linked and that each local church can build its ministry around how we approach these needs. We can listen to God in the Reverend Blackman, and we can hear God in the Reverend William Barber, a pastor in our sister denomination, the Disciples of Christ, who says, quote, and this guy lives in the South, right? But it's not just there. But he says, I'm so concerned by those who say so much about what God said so little, and so little about what God said so much. I'm worried about the way faith is cynically used by some to serve hate, fear, racism, and greed. In accordance with his faith, he is a tireless advocate for universal health care, public education, and LGBTQ immigrant and labor rights, liberation for Palestine, and the need to respond to the legitimate concerns of the Black community that are articulated in the Black Lives Matter movement. We can listen to Wendell Berry, who wrote the lyrics to the song the choir just sang, when he says, we have lived our lives by the assumption that what was good for us would be good for the world. We have been wrong. We must change our lives so that it will be possible to live by the contrary assumption, that what is good for the world will be good for us. And that requires that we make the effort to know the world and learn what is good for it. we can continue to embrace and support the efforts started by our beloved sister Wangari Maathai, whose actions spoke at least as loudly as her words. The Greenbelt movement is pure genius. At a time of despair about climate change, it gives each of us the power to make a difference by planting trees and seeing our collective efforts improve the lives of many and possibly all of us. God spoke to us here in Guilford through Wangari. And we have been blessed with Buddhists who share with us God's wisdom about mindfulness and presence, both ours and God's, and acceptance. Pema Chodron writes, "When we see or feel suffering, we can breathe in with the notion of completely feeling it, accepting it, and owning it. Then we breathe out, radiating compassion, loving kindness, freshness, anything that encourages relaxation and openness." So you're training, she says, in softening rather than tightening your heart. In this practice, she says, it's not uncommon to find yourself blocked because you come face to face with your own fear, your own resistance, or whatever your personal stuckness happens to be at that moment. This is a different path than the ones articulated in our sacred texts, and yet it supplements rather than contradicts or competes with them. God is still speaking. So to conclude this string of observations, I want to bring us back to Mary Oliver to listen for God's voice in hers. The place I want to get back to is where, in the pine woods, in the moments between the darkness and first light, 2 deer came walking down the hill. And when they saw me, they said to each other, "Okay, this one is okay. Let's see who she is and why she is sitting on the ground like that, so quiet, as if asleep or in a dream, but anyway, harmless." And so they come on their slender legs and gazed upon me, not unlike the way I go out to the dunes and look and look and look into the faces of the flowers. And then one of them leaned forward and nuzzled my hand. And what... Excuse me. And what can my life bring me that could exceed that brief moment? For 20 years, I have gone every day to the same woods, not waiting exactly. Not waiting exactly, just lingering. Such gifts bestowed can't be repeated. If you want to talk about this, come to visit. I live in the house near the corner, which I have named Gratitude. Amen. Let's hear it for Shirley of Guilford.
Oh,
Understand, Judy. Light from light.
Creation from chaos.
Life from death.
Joy from sorrow.
Hope from despair. Peace from hate.
Holy God, to whom we turn in our trouble,
and from whom we receive life and well-being, even in the face of death.
we gladly and without reservation assert,
You are the one who gives life.
you are the one who hears our prayers.
You are the one who turns our jungles of threat into peaceable zones of life.
You are the one who has kept us since birth,
who stands by us in our failure and shame,
who moves against our anxiety to make us free.
You are the one who does not hide your face when we call.
So we praise you, we worship you, we adore you.
We yield our life over to you in glad thanksgiving.
As an act of praise, we submit our sick and our dead to you.
As an act of praise, we submit more and more of our own life to you.
As an act of praise, we notice your poor and pledge our energy and our treasure on their behalf.
As an act of praise, we look for you in the faces of others, both human and animal, and the beauty of the earth.
As an act of praise, we listen for you in the voices of the wise, the inspired, the creative, the innocent, and the kind.
As an act of praise, we say yes to you and your rule over us.
We say yes, yes, amen, and amen.
Are we all hooked up? All right, our Father and Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
At
this time, it is our custom to offer our monetary treasures to the work of this church. I invite you today also to consider the spiritual treasures that you bring each other and the world while we do this. Thank you. Lord, we thank you for all of your gifts to us and our willingness and ability to share them with others. We ask that you guide us to use this offering to do your will in the world. Amen. Please pass the peace. You all waited so nicely. You could have just done it.
Hey Jerome, peace be with you. Good. Peace be with you, partner.
Also with you. Also with you.
That was just such a gift to the world. It just goes on and on.
Josh, peace. Josh.
looking. May God's face shine upon you and through you this week, and may you both receive and give divine love wherever you go. Amen.